She pretends to care. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. And as you join me outside on I would suppose, mixed autumnal day, the recent heat wave having abated, and now the first cooler weather of autumn making its way to wrap its tendrils around us, there's still some blue sky making its presence felt, and thus provides me with an opportunity to sit outside and tell you a little bit more about the ways of Harry's wife and her narcissism. Certain narcissists make no pretense of caring at all. Those are invariably lesser narcissists, particularly lower lesser and middle lesser. They do what they want, and the devil takes the hindmost. Upper lesser A may look like they care, but it's soon apparent that they don't because they're so superficial. Upper lesser type B, similarly, adopting a very much it's my way or the highway regard for life, and therefore can be seen that they only care about themselves. And therefore the lesser narcissists don't operate with any kind of facade. When it comes to mid-range narcissists, lower mid-range, middle range A, middle range B, or upper mid-range, they all operate facades. The nature of the facades varies, but has some strand of caring amongst them. So for instance, the upper mid-range generally operates a facade of superiority, and within that, the utilization of their superiority to supposedly care for people. For instance, a brilliant surgeon who knows that he's brilliant at what he does, lets everybody know that he's brilliant at what he does, but part of that shows that he must care because he's a brilliant surgeon and he saves lives. Low mid-range is more of the rough diamond. I care, but I recognise I sometimes have difficulties with people, but beneath it all, I still do care about people, even though it might look like sometimes I don't. Middle mid-range A and B are the ones that utilise the facade of caring the most. They genuinely believe that they're good people. They are often the false empaths that you find populating the internet, proclaiming that they are the victim, that they are the ones that care about other individuals. And Harry's wife falls into the middle mid-range category. She genuinely believes that she cares for Harry, for her children, for her mother. She will still say that she cares for her father, notwithstanding the fact that she's had nothing to do with him for a number of years, and fails to see how her behaviour completely contradicts the position that she put forward. But again, her narcissism blinds her in that regard. At the Invictus Games, we've seen another incidence of Harry's wife pretending to care. It's a piece of video footage, and as a consequence of my alternative working arrangements, I'm not in a position to include that, unfortunately, with this video. But it's taken between a wheelchair basketball game that is taking place between, I believe, the United States of America and France. Harry's wife is sat in the crowd, people surrounding her, and the crowd is certainly lively, clapping, making plenty of noise, there's disco music playing, etc. And a goal is scored, points are scored, and in the circumstances, I believe that it is actually France that scores. And a section of the crowd jumps up, naturally delighted at the fact that France have scored, even though they, I think at the time, were losing to the United States and losing moderately heavily. What's noticeable in the video is that many people jump up to cheer the goal being scored, the hoop being attained, and a couple of seconds later, Harry's wife jumps up also. Now, I know some people's reaction to this is, how dare she cheer for the French when they're playing against the United States? That's typical of Harry's wife, isn't it? Just demonstrating that she doesn't care for the nation that she was born into. In actual fact, it isn't to do with that. It isn't to do with the fact that she's trying to cock a snook at the United States. And it's everything to do with her narcissism, trying to exhibit the facade of caring. Her narcissism has detected that the other people have jumped up in support to cheer the French for scoring a point as they're losing, and therefore has basically signalled to her, you need to do the same. This is a brilliant example of the way that her narcissism works, and the way that the narcissism works for many narcissists in terms of a time lag. There'll be those of you who have emotional empathy where if you were to see a small child fall, you'd immediately run forward to help them. You don't think, oh, a child has fallen, I must help. You just do it. Why? Because it's instinctive for you. Because your emotional empathy identifies that that child has fallen and needs help. The fact that somebody is upset, you immediately offer them a shoulder to cry upon, or give them a hug, or ask them what's wrong. You don't think, oh, water's falling out of their eyes. What does that mean? Oh, it means that they're upset. That means they're sad about something. Oh, if they're sad about something, what's the appropriate response? The appropriate response is to comfort this person. That is how cognitive empathy works. Harry's wife, as you know, has no emotional empathy. What she does is operate with cognitive empathy, which means that in effect her narcissism has to work out what is happening, what the required response is, and then send that cherry picker off into that warehouse, as per my excellent video, The Imitation Game, to determine what response should then be applied, what kind of facial features should be adopted, what words should be said, what tone should be adopted, what gestures should be utilized. And thus, in this basketball game, we have an excellent example of how Harry's wife is just simply pretending to care. She's watching the game, but you can see that she's looking around the whole time. Why? Because she wants to see the reactions of other people in the expectation that they're looking at her. She only watches the game, not because she's interested in the game, but because her facade demands that she does so to fit in, to make it look like she's doing what everybody else is doing. And then at that moment when France score and a section of the crowd jumps up to cheer, she follows suit, but 2 seconds too late. There is no instinctive response from her, not at all. Instead, it's a copied response as her lagging narcissism works out. In order to maintain your facade, in order to make it look like you care for these athletes, you now need to jump up and start clapping, behaving like a demented seal, as she often does when those oversized hands start flapping, chopping the air like a pissed-up ninja. Once again, this provides an opportunity to see her narcissism in action. Once again, it demonstrates how she has no emotional empathy. Once again, it shows how she operates with false cognitive empathy. And you only know this as a consequence of the excellent dissection through my work. Harry's wife pretends to care. She believes that she actually does, but we all know that it is simply pretense on her part. I'm H.D. Tudor. Thank you for listening.